Hello, BookTube. Welcome to Lizzie Faye Loves Books. I'm Elizabeth, and it's time to do my September wrap-up. Well, I had a pretty decent month as far as books and bookish activities go. My numbers weren't as high this month because I didn't have a whole lot of sit-down read time other than the time I was with my daughter in the hospital. But still, I'm really happy with everything that happened this month, especially considering the fact that we're adding on to our house and everything's in chaos. And I also got to go to BookNet Fest, so that was pretty exciting. And I did catch up on quite a few of the videos that I needed to do from, the summer as far as different wrap-ups and just different things that I needed to do. So anyway, I wanted to tell you about the books that I read in the month of September. So I finished a total of 13. 10 of those were audio. Then that leaves 3 that were print books. Of the 13, 4 of them were rereads. Now there was only 3 different books, but I reread one book twice. So the Cherry Cola Book Club, because that is the main read along that I'm hosting on my channel. I had read it last year, and so I read it in print again last month, and I listened to it again on audio. So I've technically read it now 3 times. And before I forget to tell you, I do have a live show planned for this coming Saturday, October 6th at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I would love to have you join in. Even if you didn't read the book and you want to join in, then that'll be fine. But if you did read the book, especially, and whether you liked it or not, come and chat about it. There were some mixed reviews about it. It's not a well-loved book. I do think that the series is going to get better as we go. This first book did have some issues, and it's only rated, I think, a 2.9 on Goodreads, the average rating, and all the rest of the books in the series, it's a total the total number of books in the series is 6. So the other 5 books in the series are all rated above a 3 point something. So I think the series is going to get better as we go along. And of course, what I'm talking about is the Cherry Cola Book Club by Ashton Lee. And it's about a librarian who is from a small town called Cherico, Mississippi. And she basically is told in the beginning of the book that the town council doesn't believe that her library is being used enough. And she's got 5 months to either up the circulation and the use of the library, or they're going to reallocate those funds to another project. And at first I thought that they were going to doze down the library and build something else there, but that's not the case. They just want to use the funds that are being used for the library for another project. And they even say, once we get this other project up and going, it's going to generate more funds for the town, and then we can look at reopening the library in the future. So that's basically where she is. So it's a little bit predictable, because I think you could probably guess going into it that they're not going to close the library, especially if it's a 6-book series. But just in the reading of it, there's just little different things, that happen in the book, and you're like, well, why did they say that, or why did they do that, or couldn't she have come up with any better ideas than that? Just different stuff that, we can nitpick about it. And so we'll talk about all of that stuff on our live show, and I hope that you will join in. So, along with that, I introduced some other read-alongs for my Goodreads group, and one of those is Redeeming Love by Francine Rivers. I'm not really going to talk about this much now, except that people are really enjoying it. Laura from Mom to Triplets 04 called it Unputdownable, and Colleen from Books in Every Room said that she had to just go ahead and finish it. She couldn't put it down. She had to finish it, and that's totally fine. We scheduled it to be read over an 8-week period. So we're about half done with it now, if you're following the schedule that I set up for it. And so I'm about half done with it now. It's set in the, 1800s. It's set out west in kind of the gold rush time, or is that 1700s? I'm not even sure. It is actually, though, I believe, a retelling of the book of Hosea in the Bible. And our main character, that's his last name, his name is Michael Hosea. So that's interesting, and it did make me want to pick up the book of Hosea and read it again. It's been a long time since I've read through the Bible. I'm currently reading through it again, but I haven't gotten that far. And it's really interesting because God does command Hosea to marry a harlot. And so that's what happens in this book. It starts out in 1835. Our main character, Angel, is very young, and then that's just the first couple of chapters, and then the majority of the book, she is in her 20s, early 20s. So it's, I guess, in the 1850s, most of the book. So anyway, if you would like to join in, it's a very easy book to read. It's heartbreaking and sad in a lot of places, but if you would like to join in and you haven't started yet, you've still got this whole month to finish it. I would love to have you join in. Okay, then one of the other read-alongs is the Home to Heather Creek series. This is published by Guidepost. It has multiple different authors, Anyway, this first book is by Carolyne, Aarsen, and it's called Before the Dawn. This is I think a really enjoyable beginning to the series, what I hope is going to be a great series. I think it's a little bit predictable when you learn the premise, but you don't really, you don't know exactly what the circumstances are going to be, but it's basically about these children. Well, the youngest is 10, and then the other two are teens, and their mother's killed in a car accident, so they have to go to live with their grandparents who live on a working farm. And these kids are from the city, so they don't really know anything about farming. They don't really want to be there. Everyone's grieving for their mother. Their mother had been a teenage runaway, and so she, I don't think, was completely estranged from her parents, who are the grandparents in this book, but they didn't have a lot of communication, and the grandparents have not really had an opportunity to get to know their grandchildren. I think maybe they've met a couple of times, but that's about it. So they're getting to know each other. They're all grieving, and it's predictably sad at times, and you can predict that there's going to be a lot of conflict initially, and that hopefully by the end of the book things are going to improve. And that's basically what happened. There's different events and interesting things that happen along the way, but I hope that it's going to be a really good series, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with these kids and the family, and how the story progresses. So I really enjoyed it, and it's relatively slow paced. It's nothing earth shattering or too incredibly adventurous or exciting. But again, I set up my Goodreads group, Lizzie Faye's Comfy Corner, because I wanted to read books that are feel good, heartfelt, comfort reads, and this series fits the bill for that. Then another read along that I introduced, and I think I may only have one other buddy reader that's reading this with me, and that's Elise Hung. She is a booktuber, and I believe she's from Taiwan, so I will leave a link for her down below so you can check out her channel. And I started over on the Harmony series by Jodi Thomas so that I could read it with her, and because I really like it. I have read the first 3, so I'm looking forward to reading all of those again and then continuing on with the series. This is about a small town in Texas called Harmony, and there's not a lot of romance. There's a little bit of romance. This first book is not real steamy. Of what I've read so far, as a whole, the series would just be kind of on the simmering side of steaminess, not incredibly out there as far as crazy stuff. Y'all know I'm really more on the sweeter, simmering side of things. That's really what I prefer to read. Nothing too graphic. So that's part of the reason that I enjoy this series so much. And also, this first book, it's just a really good introduction to the townspeople. And there's some great characters, just really good. Jodi Thomas really does a great job with her characters. And I think that that this is a very character-driven series, and I would encourage you to pick it up. If you would like to join us for buddy reading this series, then it's not too late to join in. These are all on the Audible Romance package. So if you have that, then that is a great way to get through these very quickly, because it's just a click away, and you can even speed it up a little bit and still enjoy the books. So then, also by Jodi Thomas, I finished a series. I started the Whispering Mountain series because I needed a cowboy romance for the summer romance book bingo, and I got so into the series, I had to just go ahead and finish it. I finished the last 4 books. It's a 7-book series. The first 4 books center around a family a family of ranchers, and there's 4 siblings, 3 brothers and a sister. So the first 3 books, one of them is each one is about one of the brothers. This 4th book is about their youngest sibling, who is their sister. And then one of the brothers married a woman who had 3 daughters. And so these last 3 books center around those 3 daughters who are now grown and upside down. So these books, each one tells the story of one of those daughters. And also one of the other brothers had an adopted son, and he comes into play here too. So these 3 are basically the second generation of the Whispering Mountain ranch. And very enjoyable. Again, not real steamy, a little bit, but really pretty tame as far as that goes. The last book, I think, was the 4th book was my favorite, and then the last book is probably my second favorite, and it would have been a close tie for my favorite, but the main characters disappointed me right at the end. They couldn't have just held out for like one more day. But anyway, I still enjoyed it a lot, and there was some fun moments, just great characters, very good, really, very enjoyable. Jodi Thomas is now, I think, moved into probably my top 5 favorite authors of fiction. So definitely am planning to read a lot more of her work. She's got several series, almost all of them take place in Texas, and I'm really looking forward to reading some more of hers. Then let's see, what else? The only other romance that I read was Map of the Heart by Susan Wiggs. I talked about this already a little bit. I picked this up because Sarah from Not Just Romance Novels really just loved it. And I thought, oh, well, I probably would enjoy it too. But I didn't really like the narrator. It just kept pulling me out of the story. So I think if I ever went back to this book, I should just read it in print. I think it just wasn't in the right mood for what it was. It was sort of a dual timeline. Well, not exactly. It was just kind of more of it was a contemporary romance, but then they did some flashbacks so that we could see the history of one of the characters. It was the main character's father and his history. The occupation of our main female character is that she is she's an expert at developing old film and processing it. And then the love interest is a history professor who specializes in studying old photographs. So you can see why they would sort of fit together. And then her father was well, I don't want to give it too much away. He is French, and his father was a German sympathizer. So it goes back and tells that story of his father and a lot of stuff like that. I think I just wasn't in the right mood for it. And like I said, I kept getting pulled out of the story because the narrator, I don't know, just some of the stuff she said. Her name was Cristina Traister. It wasn't that she wasn't talented. She was very talented. I don't know. It's just one of those things. I just wasn't a big fan of her style. So I'll leave it at that. I had a couple of I had one other reread. I already mentioned, let's see, I had a total of 4 rereads. I read the Cherry Cola Book Club twice, and then I reread Welcome to Harmony by Jodi Thomas. And then my other reread was for book club, A Man Called Uva. This was our book club book for this past month, so I wanted to listen to it again. I didn't quite get through all of it before book club, but I went ahead and finished it. Listened to it again on audio, and I really enjoyed it. It's just a fantastic book about a man who he thinks he's done living, and it takes a little while for him to discover that he's needed and he has a reason to live. And it's just a fantastic book. I really enjoyed it. Also for book club, I have already read our book for this coming month for the meeting in October, Glory Over Everything by Kathleen Grissom. This is the sequel to The Kitchen House. We read The Kitchen House last year for book club, and I loved this book. I loved both of them. I love The Kitchen House too. This is the son of one of the main characters in the kitchen house. This is him. This is him grown up, and it's his story. And because his mother was part black, and he was born on a plantation, he's now living as a white man in the North. But there are people in the South. It's still pre-Civil War. It's like 1830s, I think. There are still people in the South who know him as a black man, even though he is white. And he has some circumstances happen that make him have to go back to the South to rescue someone. And so trouble ensues. I'll just leave it at that. It's just a fantastic book. You really don't even have to have read The Kitchen House to read this. It will stand alone on its own. I would recommend still reading The Kitchen House, but I think they're both fantastic books in their own right, and this was just really well told. I would love to read more by Kathleen Grissom. I don't know if she's even published anything else, but this was really good. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And then the other book that I read, that I finished this past month, was by Rhys Bowen, Her Royal Spyness. This is book 1 in her Royal Spyness series. And we had chosen this for our mystery book club, the one that I facilitate at the public library. We picked this quite a while back, like, I don't know, several months ago. And then it turned out that this summer, Courtney and oh goodness, I can't even think of her last name. Books Are My Heart. I'm sorry, I can't think of her first name. They read this for their Cozy Mystery Book Club, and so I knew that I was going to be reading it later, so I didn't watch their video or their discussion video until the morning I finished this book. It happened to be the same day as book club. I finished the book. I had just about enough time to get ready and watch their live show. Got some great points, great ideas for my own discussion. So thanks, you guys. And then went to book club, and we had a very good discussion about this book. So, excuse me. This was the controversy that Courtney and them were talking about, was that she didn't feel like this should really be classified as a cozy mystery because the murder didn't happen until like 41 or 43% into the story. And I get that, I understand that, but that didn't really bother me. I was just enjoying learning about the characters. The setting is great. It's England in let's see, trying to see the year. We talked about this in our book club, 1932. So I don't even remember now who the actual king and queen were in England of 1932. The queen is a character in this book, but they don't say her name, but they do talk about her family, and our main character Georgie is 34th in line for the throne, and she's basically penniless. Her brother is an earl, and they don't have much money either. They're just trying to make ends meet. The interesting thing about it, they talk about how royalty is expected to not work, but yet how are they supposed to have any money? How are they supposed to make money and support themselves? And they're not really allowed to work. So it's an interesting dynamic, So I thought it was really good. And there is a love interest, and I'm really proud of Georgie for sticking to her convictions. She has a best friend who I would not want for a best friend. Her best friend just kept saying to her, "Oh, you need to just get rid of your virginity. It's just a burden to you." And she wants to wait until it means something. And I wholeheartedly agree with that. So I was really proud of her for, sticking to her guns. Anyway, that was just one little side note of the story. So this I thought was very enjoyable. If you're looking for something that's just straight out a murder mystery, this might not be your series, because it takes a little while to get to that part, but still, it's a very interesting story. Fun characters and a fun setting, I think, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So I think that is everything that I read or listened to in the month of September. Did I tell you about, I don't think I told you about Fried Chicken and Gravy. So there is one more. This is on the Audible romance package. This is a Christian romance, and I thought it was just as sweet as it could be. Definitely not steamy at all in any way, shape, or form, but you guys know I told you I love food in the title, and this has food for the title, so I was immediately drawn to this book. It's about a young woman. She's in her early 20s. Her father and brother, well, her whole family, they own a auto repair shop, and her mother has died when she was fairly young. So our main character is expected to work in the repair shop and know everything about cars, but yet she's also expected to do all of the traditional household domestic things in the house, and she's never really had anyone to teach her how to cook or how to do these things, but yet her father expects her to do them. He's got some very, what you would call old-fashioned traditional values about women's roles and men's roles. In fact, I wrote in my Goodreads review, "Feminists beware, you will not like the father." And I have to admit, I didn't really like him too much either. He does improve through the course of the book, but he's still pretty old-fashioned, and I'm not really even what I would consider a feminist, but he expected her to do all the things that they were doing and then still make sure that dinner was ready and served and serve them. And when dinner was over, the men got to go put their feet up and watch television, and she was still expected to go and clean up, bring them dessert, and not have any help with that. So when a young man comes to try to sell, he's an auto parts rep, and he comes to try to sell her father some auto parts. They end up, there's a friendship there, and he ends up being the love interest and all that. But it's a long time coming. It's a very slow burn. Some people might get bored with it, especially people who are, want, a lot of sexy times and all that, because there's definitely none of that in this book. It's just really sweet. He, at one point, he stays for dinner, and, all the men go in the living room, and she's going back to the kitchen to clean up, and he's like, "Don't we need to help her?" "Oh, no, she'll get that." Well, it's just funny. So you just gotta kind of take it with a grain of salt. But just know that the father does improve as the story goes. So I enjoyed that a lot. It's on the Audible Romance package. And, if you want just a good, clean, sweet Christian romance, then Fried Chicken and Gravy is definitely a good one. And that's it. That is what I read for the month of September. I started a few other books, and I am going to do a Friday read, so I'll talk about them more in that. I think I mentioned this already, Redeeming Love by Francine Rivers. This is one of the other read-alongs that I started, and we are only halfway done with it. And did I already mention Cape Light? I can't remember. I'm thinking of postponing the rest of this on into next year and trying to get to the Christmas books by Christmas of 2019. I don't know. And the reason I don't remember if I mentioned this or not is because I filmed most of this already, and then I ran out of space on my camera and had to start all over, so I can't remember what I talked about and what I didn't. But anyway, I'll talk more about this later. I'm really enjoying this, and I don't want to rush through them, and I feel like I'm running out of time, running out of months, and I want to do nonfiction November. I want to read Christmas books, and I've got enough Christmas books to read without getting to these just yet. So I don't know. I'll talk about it on the Goodreads group, and I'll mention it again at the live show, and we'll talk about that. So that's it. That's what I read for the month of September. I would love to hear about what you read. And if you've read any of these books, let me know what you thought of them. And especially if you read the Cherry Cola Book Club, then I hope you will join me on Saturday morning for the live show. If you can't make it to the live show, I totally understand. I will post it where you can watch it later. Hopefully, I will be able to do it. I'm going to sometime between now and then do a little test to make sure that I can do it. And hopefully I can. So that's all I have for this video. I hope you are having a great day. Read a good book, and God bless you.